Okay, so this episode of Midnight Texas brought the sexy and it brought the relationship drama. This week we have Bobo and Fiji, Lemon and Olivia, Chewy and Joe, and even Patience and Kai. Shit is not good for love and couplehood in Midnight Texas right now. Um, let's start with Joe and Chewy. Okay, so there's like this special moon rising, which makes demons particularly difficult. Chewie, being a peacekeeper, decides to sit home and watch Queer Eye. And what does Joe do? Joe meets with Walker. He knows damn well this is not a good idea, but he makes an active decision to get with this demon hunter. Just saying he wants to hunt demons, and Chewie wouldn't approve. So it begins right away when Walker plants a huge kiss on him and then just says, "Oh, no, 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 I was doing it to like distract the demons." Like, seriously, dude? That Joe did not get out of that car and fly off away home to his man means he is totally into it. And some demon fighting ensues in which uh, Joe is shirtless. Uh, Thank you for that, Midnight Texas. And again, we get to see the chemistry between Joe and Walker, where they're having an outdoor shower together. This does not bode well. I mean, yeah, Joe's like, "I'm taken, I'm in a relationship." He talks a little bit about Chewie, but the fact that he's out here doing damn well what he knows Chewie doesn't want him to do, keeping secrets, letting some man kiss on him, knowing that he is physically attracted and his butt is still out there, Joe, you're doing Chewie wrong. You're doing Chewie wrong. I am not here for this shit whatsoever. Bobo and Fiji have another issue. Now, Fiji thinks that the reason that Bobo keeps getting hurt is because they're having sex. Now, there's all this wrapped up nonsense with Fiji and virginity and sex from the first season, if you recall. So, Fiji is lying in bed and Bobo is in the shower, and watching Bobo in the shower starts giving Fiji some ideas. And I gotta tell you, I cannot blame a girl for this, because whoo, Lord. Anyway, along comes Mr. Snuggles to point out to Bobo, "Hey, dude, you need to get out there because you have some business to handle." And Bobo ends up dropping the shampoo, slipping, falling, breaking glass, and it landing in his leg, creating an injury that requires 32 stitches. So now Fiji's determined. Not only can they not have sex, they cannot even think about sex because this is what is driving it. Luckily for Fiji, um, Manfred is particularly dedicated towards helping his friends because he feels that Midnight ruined his relationship with Creek and he doesn't want to see anybody else get unhappy. So after Fiji marshals up her like little witches, she realizes, or learns rather, that the problem is her. And it turns out that her Aunt Mildred is trying to send her a message from the beyond. And what does Manfred do? He goes online and he finds out that like the aunt is in witch hell. So all the answers, there you go, are actually for real on the internet. So to allow Fiji to talk to her aunt, Manfred decides that he has to change places temporarily with her aunt because to keep the balance of between the living and the dead. So Manfred goes to Witch Hell, where he keeps lighting flares to try to keep the dead witches from touching him, because if he gets touched, he has to stay. And Fiji gets to talk to Aunt Mildred. This is when we learn that Mr. Snuggly was actually the love of Aunt Mildred's life. She turned him into a cat to save his life. It seems that there's this 800-year-old curse on Fiji's family, and it causes the people that love them to die. So it's more serious than Fiji and Bobo not having sex. Like, they cannot be in love. Um, Bobo's life is in danger just from loving her. Um, Finally, we know I'm going to talk about Olivia and Lem. They're still having some problems. Olivia feels controlled because obviously with having a boyfriend who can read your mind, you don't have any privacy. So she goes and she decides that she's going to have um this girls' night, right? Which is all well and good. And she's having the girls' night with Madonna. Now, if you don't know her or recognize her, it's because we haven't really seen her in a bit, and she hadn't had such a big role in season one. This is girls' night. Unfortunately, Madonna is shady. It seems that she is working for like Olivia's dad, and so she accidentally cuts Olivia to get a blood sample. No good is coming from this. None whatsoever. I'm kind of irked that, we have a black woman. Well, I guess you could say Fiji's black too, but we have her back, and, this is not going to end well. I do, however, want to stop to point out one really good scene with Madonna is when all the supernaturals were sort of gathered at her restaurant, and they're talking about Kai's ability to change them. And Madonna was not there for this. Not at all. And she's like, you were born, and this is how this is. This is very situational. But I found it very interesting that when Chewie said, you don't know what it's like, and she's like, I'm a black woman in Texas. How do you mean I don't know what it's like? So they're mixing between the supernatural and the real lived experience of marginalized people. While it was a very cool line, um, I'm kind of on the fence about it a little bit. Patience and Kai. Kai has gone away on a retreat. Patience is not cool with it. It was supposed to be like a romantic getaway. This shit did not work out. It does, however, give Patience some time to get a little flirty with Manfred. So we have like another love triangle sort of developing. Manfred is thrown back by the, skull, and we learn that this is Kai's ancestor, his freaky deaky skull, and this is where his power comes from. Patience, however, is open to telling Manfred more and says all he has got to do is ask, and he even hooks Manfred up with an office in the hotel so that he can have a nicer place to meet clients. So yeah, this is not going to end well. The big thing about this episode, however, despite all the romance and the issues here, and like the topless men and the showering men, and oh my god, thank you again for that, by the way, um, is the Rev. We get to hear the Rev's backstory. The Rev isn't actually the Reverend. He, as we know, turns into some sort of weird tiger, and he ended up killing a Reverend. And before the Reverend died, the Reverend chose to forgive him. And so he then in turn assumed the Reverend's identity and came to Midnight, and the rest, as we know, is history. This, however, doesn't mean that the Reverend hasn't been plagued with guilt. He is, in fact, the only one of the Midnighters to take Kai up on his offer and decides that he wants to be human again and sees it as sort of his way of atoning for everything that he's done. The only person the Reverend takes into his confidence is Lem. In fact, Lem is the only person he said goodbye to, which is kind of fitting because Lem is the first person that he met in Midnight. So, if you could change something awful about yourself, would you do it? That is the big question. Some of them, like Chewie and Joe, cannot change who they are, being half demons and full on angels. But what about the rest of them? And what does this actually mean? That you should change things that people find upsetting in order to fit in, that you're not worthy the way that you were born. I'm really worried that they're going to make some very troubling analogies here, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. In the back of my mind, all I can really think about is True Blood and vampires coming out of the coffin. And are we going to have this sort of false analogy to living, breathing LGBT people or people of color? I don't know. I don't know. Um, I tend to think maybe that might be a little bit too serious for Midnight Texas because Midnight Texas is kind of cheesy, but then, different show, same author, or at least the books were written by the same author. So we're really going to see, I suppose. But this really does present a dilemma, just born. How is this going to play out? Or can people be comfortable in their own skin? And are they supposed to actually have guilt for who they are and what their nature makes them do if this is natural to them? I don't know. But I think it's going to be an interesting question to see them explore going forward.